3. I know they're next door. You want to call them? Call Tim. Yeah, they might be coming. There they are.
Right, it's right on time, guys.
Testing, testing, 1, 2.
All right, how y'all doing? Things going okay? Good. Call the Town Council meeting, May 14th, 2025 to order.
Councilman Haddix?
Present.
Councilman Bones?
Present.
Councilman Dennis?
Present.
Councilwoman Faison?
Present.
Councilman Ogle?
Present.
Mayor Pelot?
Present. I can do it myself, but I can't. Would you please at this time silence your phone, stand for the invocation by Councilman Bounds and the pledge by Councilwoman Faison.
Dear Lord, thank you for allowing us to gather tonight here as a community. We ask that you continue to bless our town, watch over us, and keep us safe. We ask that you guide our thoughts, our actions, our words, and our decisions. And all this we ask and pray in your name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get in there. Oh, well, hopefully it don't go off. At this point in the meeting, it's a public comment period. Members of the audience will have 3 minutes to make a statement or express a concern to the council. If you're here, yes, sir. State your name and address.
Rick Leva, 803 Main Street. And we've been there in that house now 3 generations, hard to believe. Anyway, I have 2 topics I wanted to bring up regarding the quality of life in Madisonville going forward, and some concerns that I've had. First, I just got back and doing a ton of work in my house, as all of y'all have probably seen, and heard some rumors that were concerning regarding the new owners, the scooters, and the possibility of putting in 8 gas pumps right there in the scooters parking lot. Highly concerning for me, obviously, but I really worry for the town, because I look at that and I go, that's the first thing you see when you come over that bridge. The last thing we need is a mini Buc-ee's, right? So I don't know what y'all could do about it or look into it, or if there's anything that could stop that, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because I definitely do think it would change livability in this town, right? Especially if they were going to be 24/7. So wanted to bring that up. The second thing is, and I've been thinking about this for a while, is the lighting in town. I'm not talking about street lights, but I've noticed, getting a lot brighter at night. I've had to deal with it for about 10 years, all right, with the scooters parking lot. You could probably host a football game there at night. There's a major light that's huge wattage. There's one over at the bank, and there's a couple others around here. I'm not against lighting for safety purposes, but maybe doing something about, wattage, location, pointing away from residential areas. I actually have a couple of pictures. All right, if you guys want to, I give them to you. And I apologize for the quality of these presets. So if you guys want to pass it down. Yeah. So as you can see, just the one in the Scooters parking lot. I mean, honestly, that's why I built that extra tall fence. Thank you, Al, for letting me do that. But, I cut down on some of the lighting under the house, but it's pretty darn bright. All right, and it might be, something worth looking into, something to do with, like I said, wattage and direction of the lighting. So those were my two major concerns. And that's pretty much all I had to say, other than I love living in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, and certainly, Rick, let me just say that we can certainly look at the lighting and what you're dealing with. I guess you pass it a number of times, you don't look at it.
Yeah.
And that's the case in my point there. The other concern has not been submitted anything to the town. I've heard rumors, I've heard statements by different people, but I haven't seen any formal request to do anything like that. But I don't know that it's not in plans. I just know that we haven't seen any plans. So it would be a concern, and what could be done, who knows? I don't, but I've heard some of the same thoughts.
Yeah, I guess one of the main reasons I'm bringing it up is I'm not one who lives on rumors, but I've had the ability to travel this country extensively, about 4 weeks a month, all right, for the past 20 plus years. And what I brought it up mostly, if you didn't have anything in place to regulate that, now would be the time to do it, not after they decide to do something, all right, because then it's going to be a whole lot harder. And I want to keep this place as quaint and as beautiful, for another 100 years, because I plan on keeping that house for another 100 years. So that's why I'm dumping every penny I have into it. And if anybody's ever curious about what I've done, by the way, you're more than welcome to come over. If I'm not there, Chris Gilchrist will show you around.
Yep.
He's pretty darn proud.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Rick, I just want to say I appreciate you coming and bringing this to our attention and asking questions. Not running on rivers is so important. And look, if there's ever a point, I know each one of us is happy to take your phone call if you ever want to ask us something before. Hey, I can't make it to a meeting. I know you travel a lot. I don't mind taking your call, and I'm sure everybody else agrees. So feel free.
I really appreciate that.
I
Thank you
share
all.
your pain with the lighting, and the biggest culprit is Marina Del Rey with the 3 giant LED lights.
Oh, yeah.
You can now see past the bridge at night.
That's a
and
little
it
crazy.
illuminates this side of town as well.
Yeah, I wear sunblock when I open up the windows on that
Oh,
side
yeah.
of my house.
Absolutely, but I share your pain, fully understand.
And I don't see why we can't take a look at what other communities have done about this, and we'll get Al and Bruce involved in it to see what route other towns have taken, or the positive and negatives, pros and cons, whatever. So we can look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rick, I spent some time out west when I was in the Army, including Arizona. There are a lot of towns out there that they get certified as it's a dark sky town, if you've heard of that before, with lighting regulations. So I know there's some regulations. That's certainly something that we ought to consider. The idea of a bunch of gas pumps, I would just like to ask the town attorney, if we did something now, would that get us in trouble with someone that's planning to do something? Or do we have an opportunity to maybe limit the number of pumps in the regulations?
If you pass a law now and there's nothing in existence that would be otherwise grandfathered in, then they're bound to it. Unless, of course, it's unconstitutional or there's,
Yeah, well, I think that property's zoned for a gas station, but we don't have any specific limits in town in our ordinances. I'll check them while we're here tonight. I didn't think so. So, it seems like that would be a fairly easy thing to get through, have a public hearing, and maybe put it into an ordinance on the number of gas pumps. I think there used to be 2 over here. I think they're gone. And then there's maybe 2 over across the street at Route 22.
Well, yeah, 2 stands, but 4.
Yeah, I think that's something we should definitely look at.
I think maybe we should even consider the height of the awnings. Is that something that we can?
It's the height and lighting that's the issue.
Right, yeah, so I would hate, they've already got pumps over there, right? I think what really got me when it was mentioned was thinking about one of those really tall awnings being put in, and that's just kind of like a glaring thing. It's not nice looking. So yeah, I agree. I would like to see what we're allowed to prevent. Yep.
Well, and whether DOT gets involved or not, it's a traffic issue, so that corner is pretty darn busy already. So all of a sudden, we've got 8 gas pumps, 24/7. Traffic could be an issue as well as the attractiveness of the town, so.
Well, don't we have plans that have been approved for the renovations that they're doing?
That's not in the plans. That's a 2-year down the road thing is what they're saying. That's what they're saying. But no request.
Has there been any request or any plans submitted to actually put gas pumps where Scooters is at? No.
In the future,
But nothing's been submitted to you at this time? Yeah. I didn't think so.
I helped write the night sky August for Covington, so I'll make a copy for y'all if you want to look at it.
Okay, yeah.
It's really neat, but, in our area, we don't need all the high velocity lights,
And Bruce, if you're making a note on that, what Louis was referencing is it is zoned commercial today, and the gas pumps are permitted. It just doesn't say a number of the gas pumps. So is there some work that we can do now to limit that?
All right, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Is anyone else here to speak to the council?
David Burke, 1115 Pine Street. I just want to thank the mayor and the council for the use of the riverfront this past weekend for a little fishing rodeo that the church put on. The weather was kind of iffy. The water's real muddy. But we had 215 people plus or minus show up. James, we call him Baby James. He's Cody's son, and from down the street here, he's that big. He's wearing water wings. He had a 2.5-foot pole. He got a 6-pound drum.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, it did. So it was a real good event. Second year working the kinks out of it, but it was a good event. I appreciate your support for it. Thank you.
You said 215 people, and I had heard 160 kids that signed up, or 250?
Probably there were 75 families and a total of 215. So if you knock the parents out, there's probably 160 kids. You're right. And it was, I sent Deidre a link that she can send to all y'all with a photo album of, we had a photographer out there that just took pictures, and the photographer had one complaint, and he said, look, David, what you done, you got kids talking to parents and parents talking to grandparents, and nobody had an iPhone or an iPad in their hand for at least 4 hours on Saturday morning.
Oh, nice.
It was a good event.
Thank you.
Congratulations, David.
Anyone else here to speak to the council? Okay. Moving into old business. On old business, water system evaluation, unidirectional flushing scheduled for April 14th and 15th. Kyle, you want to give an update on that, Coach?
All right, so we did the first phase of the unidirectional flush on the, we actually did it on the 14th, and we were done by, I don't know, 11 o'clock that morning probably. That got us from the old Punchatoula well all the way up to almost Covington Street on Johnson. All the flows that we pumped out of the hydrants equaled or were greater than the model, so it did meet the model's accuracy on that part. And whenever we did reach those flows, we had the new water gauge, electronic water gauges set up, and we did fall below the 20 PSI, which was thought we would do. So we had to put in a precautionary boil water. That was lifted the next day. We got the sample in early enough to get that released on the next day. And myself, PEC, and Aaron with Owen and White both gave it like a 99% clear after we flushed, doing it the way that she showed us. I mean, it wasn't the only difference from what we normally do and what she does is manning someone at the well the whole time to keep both pumps running at once, and we were isolating valves, which we don't do. We tried it first without isolating. We never could get that clear. As soon as we isolated, we had Johnson clear and Morgan clear. So it did seem to work. The only thing that was off in the model a little bit was the time. She was expecting to get clear in like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Some places it took doing it twice or 3 times, but we were able to get the lines clear.
So would we be able to like do the same thing to Madisonville Oaks? Or
Madison Ridge, yes. Madison Oaks, no.
no?
The lines are too big for our pumps to flush it according to the model. To get the flows out of it, we're not gonna be able to. But Madison Ridge, yes.
So Kyle, even though it took a couple of tries, maybe 3 on certain lines, I think I would consider it a success on the unit flushing.
Yep, definitely.
So is this going to be something that we add into our regular rotation?
So that's kind of up, I guess, to you guys, how y'all want me to proceed.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
We were going to add it into our regular rotation of flushing.
The only downfall is going under boil water. Do we want to do this every other month? Do we want to do this once a year?
Well, actually, I mean, now that we've done it, until we do another flushing, I would do a regular flushing next to see how it's affected. That's that area. Yeah. I mean, certainly can be done, and can you do it now? Can you do it in a different area
So
of the
we were
north?
talking about that when we did it. So whenever we stopped, it didn't take us that long. We were just kind of getting the feel of how to do it and how it was going to work. We would probably redo that section again. That way we're flushing, and that way we could do the next 2 sections without affecting this side of town.
So you can do the rest of from Covington to Georgia?
Yeah, but I would go back and do that again.
You could do
Correct.
into the river.
I can do from Covington to
To the cemetery.
towards the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Madison Ridge. I would probably do the same section in Madison Ridge once, and then
I would be really interested to see if we did it in 3 months or 6 months, how much buildup you see. I mean, I'm assuming when you flushed it, you see nothing?
nothing more than usual. It's just we never could get clear until we did it the way that she had in the model.
Okay.
And we were able to get site tests, right? And that's what she said. You never say 100% because you're not a testing lab, but she would call it like 99% clear we were able to get.
Okay.
Do we have any idea what other municipalities, how often they're doing it?
No idea.
It's all.
It's how much you want to
it's pretty.
inconvenience people. I mean, that's the only downfall of this is the having to boil water for.
During our regular flushing, would you see that it wasn't clear again? Do you see what I'm saying? So like you got it to run clear this time.
Correct.
If you go to do our regular flushing that you normally do without the boil water advisory, I'm assuming you'll see that it isn't clear.
I mean, or could be. We may have gotten it
Well, that's what I'm curious to see what it looks like. When have we scheduled to do that again?
first Monday in June.
Next month.
I think I'd reserve our decision-making until you come back and tell us how that goes. Anybody agree?
Yeah, I mean, certainly with the success of what we did, now will it take more of that to
really scour
be-
the pipes.
Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions?
I got one, just to make myself a note. We're going to do the same flushing again June 1st?
No, we're gonna do a regular
A
flush.
regular flush, June 1st. Okay.
Well, not June 1st.
June,
It's the first Monday in June.
June 2nd.
Okay.
So Kyle, could you describe the section that you did this flushing with?
Old Ponchatoula from the well all the way to, 4th on Old Ponchatoula, Johnson. 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, and Morgan.
Okay, so the other two sections, we don't have any plans to do that same type of flushing at this point?
Real quick, this is related but not exact. Does Deidre, you handle sending out the messages for the boil water advisory? Who does that? Okay.
One of the utility clerks.
I have a list of several people who said they didn't get it, and I don't know how we section that off, because obviously you didn't notify the whole town. I need to get with you afterwards with that list
It
and maybe
depends if their
review.
numbers are accurate
What
in the
number?
billing system. It goes by the billing system, so.
Right,
if-
right. Well, and so how do you segregate the addresses?
I told her which streets were affected, and
Okay.
she went, in the billing system, you can select streets.
So people south of Covington Street would not have been affected then?
No, like on,
Sorry,
On-
east, sorry.
Covington. You mean St. John?
I think like by the junior high, the Greshams is who I'm talking about.
No,
Is it-
everyone was affected.
Report on that? Yeah, actually,
No,
you
I
brought
had
up a
those,
name.
those were included, because
Those
they're
were
on that
included.
well.
Those were
Okay.
included, but Deidre has a report on several people who
Okay.
who claim they didn't get it, and some we found out. Well, she's got a list of them, so you.
Okay, while we were talking about it, I meant to bring it up sooner, but I have a list of people who are like, hey, here's my information, can you just send it and make sure it's right? And I wanted to understand how it's pulled too, so you just give her a list and she says, okay, I go by these addresses.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up to Kristen, she's talking about Lisa, who had said, and this, I guess, was my biggest concern. We have these meetings here, and we think everybody's getting the word, and we're putting out the robocalls, and yet still people don't get it. She said she had filled her kids' water bottles up with water that morning, not knowing that the boil water order was in effect, and sent them to school. And if I'm a parent with young kids, we've got to find any way we can to avoid that situation happening again. It's a small enough area that, to me, we could go out and put door hangers the week before so that nobody would miss it unless the wind blows it off or something like that. I'd be happy to walk it myself. I'm usually walking around the area anyway. But I think that really concerned me when I heard that. And I think we need to make some extra step.
We didn't know that we were going to be underwater until the time. That's the only bad thing about trying to do it that way.
I think we were pretty certain we were going to be under boil water advisory.
She was not called for whatever reason, but we're investigating of why her address wasn't included, because her street was.
Yeah. If you have other names, she.
I just emailed it to you, Deidre. It's just a screenshot of my list.
She went through the same screenshot of that list, and she's got, no, I'm talking about prior to that, to
Okay.
see some were notified, others, I mean, you can go through it and you don't even have to give names, you can give different scenarios of who was.
Some of the scenarios were, they were called and it just wasn't answered, or some were both called and text, because if they signed up for SMS, and those were people that said they didn't get a call. But if they have it where they block robocalls, then there's no way for us to know that.
Right. So I'm forgetting, they have to actually sign up for us to be allowed to text them, correct? I'll make sure I'm going to call each of these people individually and let them know, since they reached out to me.
There's a very small number.
Yeah, absolutely, but I want to make sure they're included next time, and make sure that they've done their due diligence as far as signing up for those text messages too, because I don't answer phone calls if I don't know the phone number, but I'll see a text, so.
But it leaves a voicemail, doesn't it?
Not necessarily if they have it blocked. Also, if they didn't receive the call, if their number has been changed at all, we
Right.
don't have that new number, we can't call them.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't go nowhere,
Yes,
though, because you're next on the list.
But you did say that there are no plans to do the others, but in the future, if you did it, you would do that and Ridge, and then move this way, right?
I would-
If
I would-
you
so-
do this again first, maybe include Ridge.
Yep.
And then move this way, if we decide that's the direction we want to take.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
So, if I understand this right, we do unidirectional flushing, and it was a success, we think we cleaned lines, is that correct?
Correct.
Why would we not do additional lines if we think it was successful in that area and not do the rest of the lines? What was the thought process there?
Have we had problems in different areas reported?
I'm just asking, have we had any groundwater anywhere else? If it's a one day and.
So I know, well,
I'm just throwing it out there.
I could do-
Is this the only little section in the entire town that has water issue, that has the groundwater?
the majority, yeah. The only issue, I could do, say Madison Ridge, this section, and it would probably be a day. And then we'd be down another day for me to complete that whole section. So then we'd be boil water 2 days, plus a third for the waiting. So it's just getting that out to people, to why we keep going under boil waters, and is it necessary?
What we could do it one day, 1 month, one day, another month.
And that's 3 boil, I think it'd be better hitting it all at once myself than inconveniencing people 3 different times. And we really need to catch it during school holidays, because the school has to ship water in by cases. The lunchroom has to totally change their,
Well, we got all summer.
so.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is town park improvements, tennis courts, shade structures. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, so courts came in about 2 weeks ago. They demoed the fence from the tennis court. We then went in and trimmed some live oak limbs that needed to be for when they turned the courts. They also came in and set where the new shade sails are going to be. They had to shift it a little bit from utilities that we found. We've selected the colors of the pedestal lights, the shade sail poles, the benches, the trash can receptacles, all to match the black that was already in the park. Now it's like a 6 to 8 week waiting period for the shade sails and all the fixtures and receptacles come in. So they might be pilling around with some footings or something, but they're going to kind of be on a standstill for a few weeks.
For the
Lighting, everything's got almost the same lead time. So they'll be able to come in and like pour foundations for the benches and lighting. They'll probably run some conduit. And then the shade sail footings, they'll probably put those in. But once they get all that done, we're just going to be waiting for materials to come in. Tennis court, I think they ordered the fence. That was a little lead time on that. They're going to put the fence back. They want the fence up before they resurface, because they don't want the fence installers to mess up the new surfacing. So,
Were there any lead times on any of that?
no, a few weeks I know on the fence. It's going to be the black chain link.
So the track coat that was in the park yesterday digging up the holes, that was for the utilities?
That was for the footings for the
Shade sail.
shade sail.
Gotcha, okay.
Because the footings are like 5 by 5. I think they're big and they're deep. So
Thank you very much. The wage study is next on the agenda. I'll give you an update on that as of today. the study is being completed now with the benefits using Covington, Mandeville, Punch Tool, and Hammond. It was also requested, the benefits were also requested from Folsom and Franklinton, but were never received. So I just instructed him to complete the thing without those two. A meeting will be will be set up with the Finance Committee when it's completed, and then with the full council to present the findings. So I'm anticipating shortly that we do have the completed findings. Again, we just have requested Folsom and Franklinton several times and didn't get participation from them. So that's as of today. Did you hear anything else from me? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, who are we comparing salaries to?
Salaries?
In those four?
Same ones. The same cities, my understanding. The benefits were, and the salaries.
We didn't get salaries in this for Folsom and Franklinton.
We can get anything from me. Yeah.
I thought we got salaries.
Did you understand anything different than that? No.
My bad.
Yeah. I thought he was requesting salaries and benefits from all those same cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was. I was just thinking, for some reason I thought we already had to wait.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, next thing on the agenda is A1 residential district multifamily. Oh, I'm sorry, Water Street, the Water Street project. The update is that actually the grant has gone out for bids, and the opening is scheduled for June 10th at 10 o'clock here at Town Hall. So that project is, we're waiting on the bids to come back, and next month we should have them. June 10th at 10 o'clock. Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is A1 residential district, multifamily. The ordinance, or the changes to the ordinance were sent out to you and also given to you in your packets, council. Are they, is there anything has not been included that was discussed in previous month's council meetings? I will have Deidre read the ordinance itself. I'm curious if there's anything that was excluded that was in.
I proposed it. I went through it all. Thank you to Bruce. It looks good to me.
Yeah, okay. Would you read it, please? Not the top part, but ordinance itself.
Section 36 through 88, A1 residential multifamily. Purpose. The purpose of A1 residential district multifamily is to provide for the location and grouping of uses that are limited to multifamily dwelling units. Permitted uses. In the A1 residential district multifamily, apartment houses, townhouses, single-family homes, and condominiums are permitted, provided that the plans for same are first submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission to ascertain the appropriateness of the use of the structure as to density, setbacks, traffic, and parking. The plans will then be submitted to the State Fire Marshal and to the Town Department of Permits for review. No portion of ground located in the A1 residential district multifamily shall be used for the storage of vehicles, boats, trailers, buildings, materials, or other similar items except for use by the occupants of the multifamily dwelling located thereon, and which uses are not otherwise prohibited by any other section of our code. Lot sizes, setbacks, density, and height restrictions, improved or unimproved property not otherwise previously subdivided shall not be subdivided into portions of ground measuring less than 60 feet in width and 120 feet in length. There shall be provided a minimum setback line for a multifamily residential building on an interior lot or parcel of 20 feet from the front line and 10 feet from the side and rear lines. There shall be provided a minimum setback line for a multifamily residential building on a corner lot or parcel of 20 feet from the front line, 10 feet from the side street lot line, and 10 feet from the rear and interior lot lines. Single-family structures located in the A1 residential multifamily zone shall be subject to the same setback requirements for single-family dwellings detailed in the A1 residential district. There shall not be a maximum density in A1 multifamily residential districts of 12 dwelling units per acre. No building or structures shall exceed 40 feet in height, measured to the peak of the roof. Fencing reserved. Signs. Signs in the A1 residential district multifamily shall be limited to the following: sign identifying the name of the building, i.e. Magnolia Apartments, street address and telephone number of owner or contact not exceeding 6 square feet in sign face and 6 square feet in total area and not exceeding 5 feet in height. Real estate signs advertising the property for sale or lease not exceeding 6 square feet in sign face and 6 square feet in total area and not exceeding 5 feet in height. Property with 2 or more street frontages shall be allowed to display one sign on each frontage. Advertising of property for sale or lease shall be limited to the property on which the sign is located. Political signs on a temporary basis not exceeding 6 square feet in sign face and 6 square feet in total area. Signs shall be removed no later than 10 calendar days following the last election to which the signs pertain. Construction signs on a temporary basis not exceeding 6 square feet in sign face and 6 square feet in total area, indicating the contractor or subcontractor engaged in work at the specified location. Signs shall be removed on completion of the construction work. No sign shall be erected or displayed in any public right-of-way. No flashing, blinking, or variable intensity lighting shall be allowed. All signage not permitted herein is prohibited. Parking. Off-street parking for at least 2 vehicles per family shall be provided. Each parking space shall be a minimum of 8 feet wide by 19 feet long.
Thank you very much.
There is a correction. There is a correction. I'm sure it was just a simple mistake, but under C, second to last sentence, let's see, where it says, there shall be a maximum density. What was read into the record was there shall not be a maximum density, if I heard that correctly.
That's just an incorrect reading. It's in the
That's
ordinance
right.
correctly.
Well, I know.
Yes,
But
okay.
people are listening to it. that's
Okay,
all.
all right, yeah, so that was just a correction on the reading, yeah.
My apologies.
No, it's okay. Okay, the changes in the ordinance needs to be introduced tonight, at which time there'll be a public hearing on it next month and a vote taken then, but the changes need to be introduced.
Move to introduce.
Motion by Councilman Ogle.
Second.
Second by Councilman Dennis. All in favor? Let's do a roll call vote on that.
Councilman Haddix?
Yes.
Councilman Bounds?
Yes.
Councilman Dennis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faison?
Yes.
Councilman Ogle?
Yes.
Okay. Next month at the, go ahead. Sure.
We had talked about the signs previously, and we said they must be removed within 10 days, which was our original ordinance. But did we put in the ordinance that we can't put a sign up more than 90 days before the election?
We've discussed it. We hadn't changed that sign ordinance yet. It has to be, it's been discussed, but it hasn't, the sign ordinance hadn't been changed or submitted for,
Is, just as a general question. Is the rest of council in agreement that we should probably look at something like that?
Yeah, we're all in agreement with, there's other things that
Sure.
Bruce is actually working on in the sign ordinance.
Okay. Because,
No, go ahead.
no,
That's fine, I remember we did a lot of discussion about it, and I don't believe, like the last election, we had people, not local people, but from parish and state having signs up a year before the election. It's
Yeah.
just it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so now it's been introduced and will be on the agenda for a public hearing at next month's council meeting, and a vote will come up after that public hearing. I'd like to amend the agenda, and I asked somebody to amend the agenda tonight to have Joey Furr. Joey come up and talk, but I do need to amend the agenda because he was omitted accidentally. We've been several months trying to get him here, and this month it was omitted in error.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Councilman Dennis, second by Councilman Haddix. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Joe, you need some help? Do you have, he's getting something. Is that going to hold it? You want us to hang on to it while you freeze a minute? You want us to hang on to it? Okay. Okay, you could do, yeah, that's not, may not hold it.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Joey Furr. I'm a landscape architect. I've been working in around Madisonville for many, many years over at Coquille, and we've done some various things, with the mayor, talked to the mayor several times, and he asked us to look at the riverfront and what we could do from a landscape architectural standpoint to enhance it, whatever we could do to improve the experience, also improve the aesthetic quality, but also improve the protection of the oak trees as well as public safety. So if you'll start I think you need to go up to the top and hit play from beginning.
It's a little icon on the lower right-hand side by the slide bar. Looks like a screen. Go down to the right, over to the left. Here.
There we go. Okay. Next slide. So when we approach a project like this, the first thing we need to do is kind of get familiar. Of course, I'm pretty familiar with Madisonville. I've had been up and down the river many, many years on my boats and of various sizes, and have spent the night on the seawall multiple times. And so it's a charming town, and it's really a place that people want to come and people want to be. But when we approach a project like this, we want to kind of design something that speaks to that town. So just looking at the streetscape in Madisonville, I think it's an important thing to notice. There's lots of beautiful old houses, lots of front porches, lots of benches and swings on the front porches. And the thing that strikes me always when you come into town are the fences of Madisonville. It really sets this community apart from a lot of other communities because almost every residence in town has a fence of some type. They're different types. They're painted wood, painted iron, old cypress, many different types. Next slide. And it really presents a streetscape that is just welcoming, casual. It just makes you want to sit down and enjoy life and enjoy the area. So then we also want to look, next slide please, we also want to look at the actual site that we're talking about, which is a streetscape. It's, Water Street is a very important street in town, and the riverfront is the reason the town's here. And so from the bridge, you've got a very green, obviously the live oaks are the major asset along this street. But you've got a very green view, but as you get down a little closer, it's not as green feeling. There's a lot of pavement, there's a lot of crushed limestone and so forth that's on the edge. And you've done some great things. The lighting project that was just completed and the Christmas lights on the tree really enhanced those live oaks. But those live oaks really need to be protected. And also another thing should be said, I know you've recently planted a new tree for one that died, but these are very old trees. So we need to do whatever we can to extend their life, but we also need to realize it's a renewable living thing. And so at some point we may start to think about planting some other trees to get them moving, and also greening up the street, maybe on some other sides. Next slide. One of the things about the streetscape, you can see on the residential commercial side, there are sidewalks, but there are some corners where what I call are ambiguous paving, where over the years the road has grown, and then we downsized it. Your sidewalks don't tie into crosswalks. You've got a very walkable community, and for day-to-day, for the citizens, being able to walk to the riverfront could be made easier and safer. But also when you have, events or festivals or just weekends when the town is having better crosswalks and better circulation across from the residential and the city side to the riverfront is important. The other thing, if you can look at the two trees, a few slides to the right, the parking that is there has made some improvement of keeping people from parking on the trees. But there's a very unordered edge to the whole riverfront. You've got the wheel stops, but you can get around the wheel stops. You've got crushed limestone that extend kind of ambiguously in the area. You have benches that are right next to the parking. There's no division, and there's no control of the access. You can park your car there and just walk straight across, which in some, you may say, well, that's easy just to walk out on the riverfront, but also compaction on these live oak trees is a very important thing that we need to consider. So what our plan does is try to use best practices of arboriculture and landscape architectural design to do some things that control where that compaction can take place, and lessen it, and along the way do some things that maybe relieve some of the stress that's been put on the trees. Now the trees are in relatively good shape for 300-year-old trees, but still more impact the more impact we can lessen, the better off we are. Next slide. And then there's the riverfront itself. So you've got your head wall, your bulkhead out there, and you can see it's really not a river walk or a boardwalk. It's just a 4-foot concrete head wall. And then the piles that are driven to kind of hold it back, what you tie up to, are off the wall a little bit. There's not a good rub rail or not a good buffer for boats that park there. Transition, tying up your boat there is a little bit more difficult. The addition of the shore power is a great addition, but we wanted to look at this edge and see how we could maybe improve that, both economically, but in the most economic way, but get the biggest bang for our buck without having to rebuild the wharf or the pier. So those are all things we took into consideration, because this is really what everybody wants to get to, either coming to the land from the boat so that you can go have a drink or get something to eat, or after you eat, getting back on your boat and going, or just being able to get into the water. So that's kind of what our plan is all about, is to try to figure that out. Next slide, please.
And then the other thing that we were looking at is how do we make the community center tie to the riverfront? As you can see, there's a huge disconnect. It's right across the street from the river. But you can't really see the river because of all the cars and the street that goes there. That parking, the street is now one way, but we're still allowing parking there. The parking spaces are valuable. We found a few extras for anybody that we might want to take. But really, you don't have a seamless transition between the riverfront to the community center. So if you're having a big indoor and outdoor event, transition across that road, even if the road is closed, is somewhat difficult. And there's trip hazards. It's not ADA accessible, so you can't really get from the community center or the front of the community center, which is good public green space, out to the river. So we wanted to try to do that. So next slide. So this is our overall plan. I'm going to zoom into some of these spots, and I'm going to walk up to the TV so I can point, since I didn't bring a pointer. But basically, the bridge cuts the riverfront in half. It would be great to be able to go from one side to the other without going through the traffic, but right now that you can't do that. But we are providing some circulation and some better crosswalks so that circulation north and south can take place. Next slide. The first end that we'll talk about is the south end. This is the community center here, the bridge here. And you can see kind of what we're doing. We're maintaining this parking along the edge. But what our goal is to do is to clean it up so that there's more water to it. We control the compaction, and we still allow ample access to the river. We just want to have control points so that you can't just walk across and compact those trees. So we're providing some circulation on this side at the parking because there's no north-south circulation on this side of the road. And so what we're proposing is to do a pathway that would be built with low impact to the tree roots. We use forced concrete or forced pavers. Everything would be built above grade, so we wouldn't be cutting any roots, but we would be reducing compaction. We discussed this with the consultant that we use frequently, who's an arborist, and he said this is the best way to approach it, and this is an enhancement to your situation. He's seen the trees, he's been here before, he's seen the trees, he knows what's going on. So we would build these sidewalks above grade.
Joey, excuse me, could you come back to the mic?
Sure.
As much as you can, because we are, we're not only recording it, but it's being shown.
Okay.
Yes.
I understand. Thank you. So we do want to have we do want to have that circulation, but you can see we've got areas where you can circulate through. And of course, the main plaza there, kind of the oval shape in the middle, is our new city plaza or town plaza, as well as it's a veterans memorial included in that area. Next slide. So zooming into that plaza, the green blob kind of in the middle is one of the large oak trees. The one just to the left of Community Plaza, the words Community Plaza, is probably the biggest tree out there, one of the biggest trees out there. So you can see we're giving it ample green space. We're going to remove all the crushed limestone that's there, try to get a better growing space there, and then we will do the porous paving and so forth around it. But we're going to do a seamless plaza that runs through. So this would be a plaza that the road drives through. So there would be a designation of the roadway. It's a one-way roadway. There would be a low rollover curb there that would be wheelchair accessible, and then we put crosswalks in the middle. You can see the crosswalks there, so that you would be able to have a transition from the Veterans Memorial area and the community center out to the river. And then we bring that pavement all the way down to the new river walk or boardwalk that we're proposing along the river. We're proposing adding some flagpoles on the river just to signify where the center of town is. I think that's important. And then this expanded plaza, on that west side of the road would be, or west side of the roadway all the way down to the Riverwalk, would be pavement that would reduce compaction and would give, kind of a waterproof or water-resistant area for the festivals that you have along the river. And again, all this would be done with the best interest of the oak trees in mind. One of the things I observed when I came out here was there's a lot of people that are just sitting on benches and talking and just enjoying the time. And looking at the porches and the swings and everything, I think we need to add furnishings Adirondack chairs, but also we're proposing a lot of swings, just porch swings, so people can be there under those oak trees without being in the areas where you're going to hurt the roots, but be able to get the shade and enjoy that. So, a very casual, it's a different riverfront than the New Orleans riverfront. It's a much more casual approach, and so we're trying to go with that and make it a more casual feel. As far as the plaza, the Veterans Plaza, the idea there is to add paving, but also add some trees in that plaza to get some shade in the plaza. It's not the best looking building that's ever been built, so I think some landscaping in front and along the sides will help some. It'll be a good win-win because you'll be providing shade in a plaza area, but you'll also be giving a little buffer, a little better visual transition to that building, I guess is the right way to say it. Add a couple of big live oaks there to continue that, those will grow and to kind of continue that oak tree road or street along there. You can see we also, the kind of tan sidewalks, those would be the new sidewalks that would be off to the edge, and then we're proposing some what we're calling Madisonville fences. We're proposing a low fence in some of the areas to keep people from walking right out of their cars or pulling their cars up under the oak trees. If you could go to the next slide. And then as far as the boardwalk that we're talking to, this is a section through the entire plaza. If you look at the lower section, what we're proposing there is to take the 4-foot flat area and go on top of that with either wooden plank or possibly some prefabricated concrete planking that looks like wood for residual, and kind of bridge it, let it extend out beyond the piles that are there, then add new wooden rub rails so that you don't have that in and out of the, you have one consistent edge there, that you could make it easier to tie up new cleats and all that to make it a better riverfront, but also expanding that way a couple of feet and expanding the other way a couple of feet. So instead of ending up with a 3.5-foot sidewalk, sort of, you end up with a nice 8 or 10-foot wide boardwalk. And you pick up some space because about 2 feet of that is going out over the river. So you're not coming in as much on the grass. So that's the concept there. And we would propose, that all the way, from one end of the project to the other. I think that would encompass the new shore power. They would be on the back side of that or the shore side of that, so it wouldn't change that at all. And then all of these sidewalks and everything work with the existing lighting and electrical project that we've just done. Okay, next slide. So this is a view of what it is now, and so you can see you got 2 rows of cars separating community center to the, go ahead and hit the next slide, the road, and this is just a conceptual sketch of how that would look when the plaza is built. So you can see the cars go away, and you can open it up. You can see the flags of the different service branches, at the Veterans Memorial. The flags out at front signify where the center of town is, the new boardwalk, but we still have this very linear. It's not a very wide space. It's a very linear space. We want to maintain as much of the grass as we can and only do paving or decorative aggregate in the areas that we absolutely need to. Next slide. So this is your view of the plaza now, or the community center now. Next slide. And then this is kind of what it would look like. So you would look under these trees. These may be a maple or elms type trees, but it would be a bosque of trees. The cannons would remain, seat walls, and the flags at the Veteran Memorial Plaza. But really, just what it does is it takes this front yard of the community center, which is really just to walk through on a sidewalk, and it creates a really nice plaza, community plaza, for people to gather, either day to day, or if there's an event going on at the community center, or if there's an event going on the riverfront. And you've got this transition that's seamless between both sides of the existing road. Okay, next. So as we go farther south, this is really about access and pavilions. The existing pavilions are in bad places in many cases. They're also they've served their purpose well for many years. So we're proposing to do away with those and come up with a new pavilion that'll have the vernacular of the Madisonville architecture: standing seam roof, probably vaulted ceilings, maybe cupolas, and so forth. We've got some sketches of those already. But really new pavilions that are placed better. You can also see where we're providing the fences on this slide if you get up close to it. And then you've got ample access from the parking, both north and south and east and west, out to the riverfront. A couple of pavilions on either side of one of the lights that are there. Some small ones. The one on the end I think is 20 by 30, where that's a pretty nice sized pavilion. The other ones are 15 by 18 or so. Proposing that we have some swings hanging in there. And then if you go to the next slide, then we've got, you can kind of see where those fences are. So the fences basically keep you from going. They just channel you into the main entrance areas. On this end, it's a little different than the other end. You'll see in a minute. Because we have the main access at the plaza, and then down here the parking, we have secondary access. But these are like 8-foot wide walkways, so they're obvious and they're easy, and there's one about every 3 or 4 parking spaces. The brown area represents doing some mulching or some low ground cover planting that will just enhance the health of the trees and help them to be better. And it also keep people off them. The biggest problem with these trees is compaction, either from cars or from people standing on them. So we want to do that. That could possibly even be mulch. If it was just organic mulch, it would help the tree from the compaction that would take place. We're also where are they? So the sidewalk would be here, and this would be here. That would be it. So you get out of your parking, you walk here, and you come in, or you come here. So, and they're low.
Just in front of the trees.
Just in front of the trees. In some cases, most cases, they're on the river side of the tree, outside of that sidewalk. In a couple of cases, they're on the roadside to protect the tree from traffic coming into the road. And we're talking about a low fence. It's really more of a visual, it's more of a decorative grate. It's not to keep anyone out. There are no gates or anything. It's just fences. If you look at the next slide, you'll see. So this is what we're looking at now. You can see the limestone and the parking go right up to the base of that tree, and then you got a garbage can and a bench right there, and that's not it could be a little higher quality space, I think. So if you click to the next slide, you can see. So I don't know if you can see it from there, but this is right here is one of those low fences, just to keep people from going straight across and walking. It just puts more order, gives us a better edge. We've got all these wonderful streets and this nice streetscape throughout town, and then you get to the riverfront, which is the main thing, and there's no water, and you're basically looking at limestone and stuff. So we want to just make that visually more, and we're not really losing any usable space except the space directly under the oak trees, which we need to take that out of commerce in terms of people because of the trees. At least that's our opinion. Okay, next. There are 3 trees down toward the south end where there's actually a pavilion built now. We're proposing to do away with that, but make a deck there where we would have an elevated deck. Then we would have several tables, a couple of swings. These could be movable tables, so it could be a larger gathering spot. But this would be elevated slightly. In this particular area, we're having trouble getting grass growing all the way to the edge, so we're proposing maybe a bocce or cornhole pit there so that people would be able to play games when they're there. And then, of course, the pavilion is on the southern end of that particular area. In this case, the fence you can see is up out toward the road because, we've got the deck, but we want to keep people from pulling their car off, pulling their wheel off, and parking under those trees. And also defining that edge. It's about a streetscape. It's kind of a visual edge. Next. And then the north end is simpler. If you go to the next slide, there's more green space in some of these areas. We have these gathering circles. There are areas. These are areas where people tend to gather already. I notice people bringing their own chairs and sitting out there in the shade. We're trying to define those areas between the trees so that they get the shade, but they don't impact the roots too much. But these also work as gateways to come from the parking and be able to get all the way out to the riverfront, to the boardwalk. Just little seat walls around the side, and there's in that middle case, there's light standard there. And you can see the crosswalks and the main entrance plaza. So this becomes a main entrance plaza on the north end, at the end of the street there. Right now, there's a half of a pavilion, and there's some other stuff, and it's you come to the end of the street, and instead of having a node there that you could easily walk across and pick up and come out to as an entrance area, it's random. And so this will put some order on it, and this will create a main entrance. So people walking from the neighborhoods will be able to come and walk in there, and it'll make more of a main entrance. And there's a little plaza space there if you're setting up something for a jambalaya cook-off or gumbo contest or whatever. There is some additional paving here. Next slide. On the other end, it doesn't change much from what it is now. It's pretty successful just being open green space, other than we're extending the boardwalk and making that larger and more comfortable. We're adding some swings, and we're doing some of the same things with the sidewalks to protect the trees. The juxtaposition to the crushed stone and the trees is much more random down here than it is on the other end, so we want to try to clean that up a little bit and make it a little bit more orderly. We're not proposing to do away with the crushed limestone parking. We just want to define it better so that it looks like a parking space and the rest of it looks like a park. So, that's basically the concept for all of this, is to not change the use. We just want to make the uses better and make them more functional and make them look better and make the trees more healthy. Next, I think that's it. So that's all I've got. I've got time for questions if anybody has, and there are drawings down here if you want to look at the more detailed drawings after the show.
Boardwalk, are you really extended feet out into the river? Have to have more piles there, or how you?
We haven't detailed that construction yet. This is just a master plan. We've identified something that we believe can be done. We haven't identified exactly how it will be done yet. We'll have to work with the engineers and Coast Guard and everybody, but it'll be more compliant. It'll be easier for somebody to come in and dock and tie up, and it'll just be a better riverfront. But we're going to keep the structure there because the structure's in pretty good shape as best we can tell, talking with the engineers. We just want to make it wider and more appealing.
I like it, and again, we got to get more detail, I guess, but tying the north and south together. I was in Bradenton. They have a wonderful walkway there, and the walkway goes under the bridge, so we can't go under the bridge.
You might be able to,
but this doesn't go down. It just goes out in the water.
Yeah,
because the wall, I guess, holding the bridge up, the pilings, is out far enough that you can build a boardwalk out and come along and come back in. And I haven't gone down and checked the height, but I mean, it could even go down a little bit, you know, just a little bit of dip without going down to the water.
We've
And we
talked
can
about
walk
that.
under it.
We've got some schematics on that already, but I think that may be, something we definitely, I think it's definitely an option.
Well, I think it's very possible.
It's doable. It's very doable.
A lot
But
better
it's
than
also,
digging out on the inside of the.
well, and that's probably not doable.
Right.
Just because of the structural, and you don't want to, you don't want to mess with the bank there. But yeah, I think that's something, we didn't put it in this because we're trying to, I think this is more of a low-hanging fruit type of plan first. And I think as we start to make these improvements, then we can look for other ways to make it even better. But I think that north-south connection is super important. But I think there's some other things that we identified that are probably more important. We need to be able to use the space and protect the trees, because if we don't protect the trees and we lose the trees, we have, and everything we do, we're going to have to be very careful that we do it. And all we can do is the best way that we can possibly do it from a horticultural standpoint or arboricultural standpoint. But we do have to realize they're very old trees. So we want to do everything we can to make it better.
Joey, I think, I like the project.
Mhm.
You put a lot of work into it. Our number one goal is to protect the trees, and you've taken that in mind. It's a lot to chew on for the first looking at it, but I do like it. And what Brad was referring to, if you think about the old causeway concept, that when you had to make a U-turn, you went off and got just above water line and was able to come back up and get on the northbound track.
Yeah.
But we have to take in mind that's going to go underwater when the river comes up.
Yeah, you have to. And have you been to the sculpture garden in City Park? Yes. Yeah, that's the same kind of concept. But that involves a pump and some other things. So it can be done. It's just, and I think it will be done at some point. But we elected to stay with the shoreside stuff at this point, and then we'll get into, we got some other ideas about the riverside, but I think if we can move forward, that was kind of the direction that the committee, we kind of took, yeah. Yeah.
Thought it was a great addition to
Yeah.
what you already have.
Yeah, right.
It's an interesting concept. Thank you for all the work you put into it, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is just the beginning. It's renderings. It's the
Yeah.
first looks. So a lot of thought has gone into it, but I bet there's a lot of suggestions that could be made. So this is just beginning stages. So it's the first time you've been to the council meeting, and certainly you presented a lot here. So thank you very much for what you've done. There was a question that Brad had. I mean, can you send that to the town hall so that we can share it, either with the committee or the Parks and Recreation Committee?
She has it on her jump drive now, the PowerPoint,
Okay.
and then I'm going to leave these drawings here, but I can send you individual. I can send you whatever you need. I can send you the individual drawing files or the PowerPoint or
I
whatever.
already emailed you asking for it, so thanks.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, and again, I just think we all need to recognize this is just renderings that we're seeing for the first time.
And I'll just say, we've been working, as you know, we've been working at Coquille for almost 18 years now. And we started with a plan there that a lot of people thought was ambitious, but it was just ideas. And a lot of those ideas have come to fruition pretty much exactly as we had. And a lot of them changed over time because things, funding changed, the users changed and so forth. So I think this is the type of project where you want to dream big and then right size it as you design. There's a lot of detailed design that has to go into it to figure out, the best way to approach it and get everything that we want, protect those trees. But there's a lot more design work that needs to go into it. This is just me putting ideas and the ideas from the committee and the things I've observed over the years onto paper so we can move to the next step, which I hope we'll do soon.
Mr. Just a couple of questions. First of all, I think before we do anything else out on the riverfront, we ought to have a plan. One of the things that's concerned me is we've done a few pieces here and there. For instance, those pedestals that were put out there. Most of the plans have a boardwalk, but now the pedestals would be on the wrong side of the boardwalk. So when boats pull up, they have a hose, they have an electrical line. Where the pedestal stands now, that would just be hanging out, I guess, over the boardwalk unless we moved it. So we've already put them in one spot, so that's a concern. Have you been to Sunset Point in Mandeville?
I believe I have.
All right, they have a couple of like fishing piers, got hit by Ida. They look like they did the day after Ida, and I think we're coming up on 3 or 4 years. So I think we need to really consider what's the maintenance, what would a storm do to these boardwalks. When we went through the master plan, there were some complaints. Some people didn't participate in anything, and they just wanted to complain afterwards. But I think there were some other legitimate complaints. Some people said, well, you had people participating who don't live in town. And I think that's something to be considered. But the bigger issue, I think, is we had people who, for one reason or another, don't want to speak up. They want to provide input, but maybe they're shy, or some people complain too many people were bossy or whatever. But I would like us to be able to put some of these concepts together and have a town meeting where everybody gets to come in and provide their input, because it's valuable. And it would only make this plan better. And then we don't really do anything with, as far as construction, until we have the plan in place. So we know we're not going to have to undo something to redo something else. To me, that's the right approach moving forward. And just to follow up with what Brad said, that crossover on Highway 22 was discussed extensively during the master plan process. And I asked Robert Baker and Warren Davey to come out of Davey Shoring and Baker Pile Driving, who I would say are probably the most knowledgeable people in that type of work around here. And they went out with me under the bridge. They looked at it. They didn't bring an engineer out, but they felt like we could do a crosswalk underneath the bridge there. So I wouldn't want to just toss that idea aside. I think that would be the best way to get people there, probably the most cost effective, if there's a way to do it and get state approval.
But you're talking underground, under where it's low. The simple solution, though, is to build a boardwalk out and around, and you don't have that engineering issues of the integrity of the wall. So if you could just do a boardwalk out a little bit, then you don't have to worry about that.
They said there were tiebacks that are holding up the wall that go underneath the bridge, but they felt like there was a way around that they could fix that.
So our idea would be to do exactly that, do a boardwalk, go out to those first piles. You probably have to go down, looking at the height, you probably have to go down. And it may even flood, so that there may be times when you can walk under it, but when the water's high, if you're 6'6", you're not going to be able to walk under it. And one day, if you're 5'6", you're not going to walk under it. But that you could do something that actually that goes up and down with the tide, and like a floating dock. Right. I mean, there are a bunch of different ways to do that. It's just a matter of money and priority and time. And we also were saying that you could define a swimming area that was inside this protected area where you wouldn't have people swimming where people are pulling up on boats. Because people now can get down in this. But those are all things that are certainly for discussion. But that idea of going under is definitely something that would work, I think. We would just have to figure out how to do it.
And again, I think I said this, but I'll say it again. This is an initial start.
Yeah.
This is initial renderings. First time we've seen it. Nothing was planned to be, no nails were gonna be driven next week.
Yeah.
The power poles and the pedestals that are out there are put exactly where they only could be to minimize the space between the boat and the dock. It's right up against the cement walkway. So we've minimized that intentionally, not to take up any additional boardwalk. So that thought was already planned in advance, and they're not going to be moved. They never were intended to be moved. They were put in the exact plan that they were recommended to minimize that inconvenience.
Well, the engineers didn't want to put them on concrete, right?
No, yeah, right. They couldn't. That's a solid.
Yeah.
That's a solid gap of concrete.
And there
So there's going to be town meetings. It
Yeah.
wasn't going to be. It was. That's what this. That's the start of this. So there never was a plan to do anything without input from the citizens.
Yeah, and those are what I call, those are, at this point, those are minor problems. It may seem like a big problem, but that's something that's a design challenge. So that was the best we could do with what we had without redoing the whole, without redoing the whole concrete bulkhead, which would have cost millions and millions of dollars, and then you would have not really gained anything. But there may be a solution as we design this deck where we can have a slot where people can at least put their shore power cables and stuff, and a thing they can pick up and drop it in. So there's a safe way. I mean, that's a design issue, not a master planning issue. But if people tell us in the town meetings, boy, it would be great if we didn't have to trip over somebody's shore power when we're walking down it, then we put that down. We say, how do we design that? How do we make it so that works? Because that is something that we would look at, but also if the public's looking at it, it's also important.
I can add something I've seen in some of the concrete bulkheads where they would grind out like a 2-inch by 2-inch line across. That way the boaters can lay their electrical lines down and the public wouldn't trip over them. So there's a way to do that.
But if you go to most marinas and you're on a boardwalk and you see the white stripe down the middle, that's usually to tell you, so you can see it at night if you're going to your boat, but it's also, that's usually where the power's running. And that, a lot of times that's a hatch that you can pull up and get to the wires, because all those wires they're not on the water, they're floating up, they're up at the top of the pier. So, those are just detailed design decisions that we have to make when we're doing the construction documents. Right now, we're way away from that. We need to find out what we're going to figure out what we're going to construct before we do the documents. So, but we're here for you, and we're excited about it.
Well, I think it's a great start.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you very much. No, thank you.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Moving into new business, this introduction of the FY 2026 budget. The budget certainly needs to be simply introduced by council tonight. It's been given to you, and there's plans and to do several. Well, let me just read a short statement to you. I'm pleased to present the proposed budget for our town, which has been developed through careful collaboration and input. This budget reflects our commitment to maintaining essential services, investing in our community, in our community growth, and ensuring fiscal responsibilities. Over the coming weeks, the council will review, discuss, and may suggest modifications before voting to approve the final budget. I'm asking that you make appointments to come in and speak with me about your concerns. Appointments can be made on May 15th, 20th, 22nd, and 27th between 10 and 2 p.m. Doing this by appointment will allow us to plan our day and be responsive to both elected officials and our daily community needs. A public meeting will be held at our committee meeting on Wednesday, 28th of May, to consider the budget. And finally, the budget will be scheduled for the public hearing on June 11th and a vote on the budget that same night. I appreciate your dedication and look forward to working together to finalize the best plan that serves our town and our residents. So the plan and the budget is done by the mayor, and it's submitted to the council for your approval. There's documentation supporting each one of the funds that's been given to you. That documentation and the numbers on those funds will be carried over to the 4-page summary of the budget. The budget, just to give you some basic information on the budget has increased this year in the amount of $673,741. A majority of that increase has been due to the increase in gas sales. That's a total of projected $413,469, and an increase in the interest income of $110,000. So that, of the $673,000, only remains, after those two things, $150,000 over all of the other revenues that you'll find in the first section of the budget. Those revenues have increased in several spots. The property tax increase over last year's budget of $15,000. The cable franchise increased to approximately $11,000. The insurance licensing increased $10,000. There's several small things that you'll see in the revenue section that accounts and totals up to that increase of $673,000. In the funds and the support documents that you received, you will have a general fund that will be a combination of the administration and the police department. That's together in the general fund. And then you'll have also the sales tax fund, the gas fund, water fund, sewer fund, and garbage fund. If you look at your 4 sheets that were submitted to you, the revenues total for this year is $7,802,241. Yeah, okay. If you go to the 3rd page, you will see that the expenditures totaled up to $6,079,842, leaving a projected surplus before grants and capital outlay of $1,722,400. That's before capital outlay and grants. In the capital outlay and grants, you'll see also there are three additional, or three specified ways that capital outlays are identified as improvements, they're identified as requested, and they're also identified as approved. So the grants and capital outlays where you see improvements, those are expenses that's to the town that we're going to have, we're in the budget for improvements. 5th Street water main installation, rebuild 5 regulator stations, Pine Oak subdivision main relocation, Highway 22, 1085 roundabout, that's the relocation of a gas line, and also a new excavator for the gas department. Those are the improvements that's in the budget. There are approved grants. Those grants are at the town park, for the improvements to the tennis courts. It's also a Water Street sidewalk and drain project that's approved. And at the bottom of that page, you'll see approved the wastewater treatment. That's the point repairs for the sewer project, a $2 million project. Those are approved projects in the budget. You'll also see listed there requested. Those are the requested grants and capital outlay. That's the new fishing pier is a requested grant. The LCAP grant for a gas truck is a requested grant. The capital outlay for water system improvements is a $6,100,000, $6,100,000 grant or capital outlay request that's been requested. There's also a grant requested for CWEF. That's a community in a water enrichment grant for $25,000. So everything's identified for you either as with those expenses in the capital outlay as either improvements, approved grants that we're actually working on now, or requested capital outlay and or grants requested. If you look at the bottom of that, net grant and capital outlay income expense, that's $1,722,400. So the next line will show you projected surplus deficit, including grants and capital outlay. We have a zero balance budget presented tonight to you. Actually, if you have some questions, general questions, we have either myself, Deidre, and also Jennifer here tonight to answer questions. And I've actually, I just remind you that I've offered 5 different dates. And the only reason why those dates are picked, it's either it's either Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays that I'm asking you to make an appointment if you want to come in, discuss the budget, and between 10 and 2 so that we can schedule our schedules around being with you and answering your questions about the budget. But tonight, we're all 3 here and certainly can answer some general questions if you have them right now.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
My expectation from the salary study was that staff in town would be getting a raise. I certainly already proposed a pay scale for the police and started to work on the maintenance department as well before the survey was brought up. But is it possible for us to get them back here to present that study for the committee meeting so that we'd have time to include that knowledge in the budget?
Possibly. I mean, I'm waiting for them to schedule, to respond to our email today. And I asked for a meeting as soon as possible. Yeah.
And then there are a couple of things in here that I just wanted to ask about. There's a $75,000 expense for computer software implementation. What is that?
We're right now looking at new software for the town hall, and that's projected. We've had several companies give us estimates. That's projecting a possible total of $75,000.
Is that for bill payment or the website or?
All of the accounting software. So it will be all of our accounts payable and not our accounts receivable, not the bill, but all of our general ledger, financial statements, and accounts payable.
Okay, so that's a one-time charge?
Yeah.
And then on the capital outlay, there's a $288,000 expense for Pine Oak subdivision main relocation. Is that a water main?
That's a gas main.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pine Oak is in Tangipahoa Parish, right?
No, Pine Oak is on Brewster Road, between Perilou. Yeah.
Lewis, I'm sure you saw as well, and I asked about this earlier, there are some increases in the salaries on here. I'm assuming, if I'm correct, that these are guesstimates of,
Listen, I just jotted down some notes. And actual increases, there's an increase of $42,022 this year in salaries from last year, and a total of $97,904 over the last 2 years. So there's been a tremendous improvement in the salaries and benefits over the last 2 years. There's a minimum in this budget. There's a minimum of 5% increase on all full-time employees in this year's budget. And just, because you asked about the salaries of the police department, there's an increase in the salaries of the police department of 6.4% for this year, and there was an increase of 18% last year. So that's nearly a 25% increase in for the police department salaries. That's over the last 2 years. So they have not been certainly ignored. There's been a lot of attention paid to them.
On the community center expense, it's projected to have an expense of $51,000 this year, plus we need maybe a $200,000 roof. The budget amount was 20. Just wondering, what goes into that 51? We don't have any line items here.
If you, is that in the general budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's page 2 on the one I printed out.
Community center budget. It's projected 51,000. There's currently there's 38,900. Those are projected numbers using the past 9 months and projecting the next 3. I don't anticipate that projected number will be correct. I think you're going to see more in line with the $40,000. But let me tell you, the reason why it's over is because of the roof repairs after the last hurricane. So that there was a one-time expense on the roof of Pascal. Do you remember what that approximately was? 650. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's close to 20,000. So that was a one-time expense. There is a request for $200,000 to replace the roof, but the roof has been repaired since the last hurricane, and it's in our budget. That's what threw that actual number up as high as it is this year.
One other question. Which fund do we use to pay the maintenance staff that are out cutting grass?
Depends really on where they're. That's going to be, the majority of that will be in the sales tax fund. And they're.
it's under special revenue, right?
Special revenue, yes.
Last year about this time, one of the HOA presidents came here and asked to get more, cutting services. I believe it's in Madisonville Ridge. And they're getting cut maybe once every 3 weeks or something like that. During the campaign, I spoke to a lot of people in that subdivision and the other one on 22, Madisonville Woods, Oaks. Okay. And I heard from several people that they feel detached from the town. And I guess physically they are. The sidewalk connects Madisonville Ridge. But they talked about they had to buy their own speed limit signs. They were having to cut their own ditches and around the.
Which subdivision?
Just the two that are out, one on 22 and the one off Old Ponchatoula.
Well, both have been supplied with street signs.
So I guess the thing that troubles me is that anybody in town would feel like they're not part of town. So I would ask that we look at giving them more grass cutting services if we're missing it. If they're only getting it every 3 weeks, actually, after they told me that, I got a strip of grass along Johnson Street between my house and the road. So I used to cut it, but I stopped cutting it so I could see how often is the town cutting it. It was about once every 3 weeks. And I feel like that's a little thing that we could do for the people out there that doesn't cost much, for people that, in general, are feeling like they're a little bit outside of the town. And I don't like that, people having that feeling.
I mean, I don't get that information and that feel from them. We have both subdivisions have been furnished with stop signs and street signs. The sidewalk project that connects Madisonville Ridge has been well received, and that was a grant received for that purpose, to connect the connectivity from areas in the town with the main part of town. So that was an approved grant that we received for that specific reason. As far as cutting, most of those both subdivisions have their own HOA and have provided for their grass cutting in the past. When requested, and last year, we cut it for a little while, and they wasn't happy with the frequency or the way we cut it. Is that they wanted it weekly? Yeah. Yeah, we don't not only do we not have the staff, we just can't we can't staff that many people.
Kyle, my ask you a question. Is either of these developments, the rotation of doing the cutting that y'all do, are either of these developments he's talking about on a different schedule compared to the rest of the town? Or they're all on the same schedule?
All on the same rotation. We don't cut Madison Ridge at all anymore, except the park, which is on Gladys Road.
Which was by their request?
Yes.
Right, all right, so everyone's on the same rotation, whether you live on my end of town or whether you live down
The
where
only
Keith's at
thing
opposite end.
The only thing that gets cut more often is Riverfront Parks, here.
The riverfront, the park, and the town hall. Yeah,
They're cut.
and the community center.
Right, but as far as the general cutting around town, we're all in the same rotation no matter where we live. Is that correct?
My impression with the grass cutting, and my experience with subdivisions that are within the town limits, we've always had our HOA pay for the lawn service. The one I live in right now, the town doesn't cut our grass. As small as it is, we service it out. So we would be only supplementing whatever subdivision it is, Madison Ridge or what have you. I just don't, it would be new to me to think that the town would cut their grass, especially common areas or whatever. The HOA's always collected those dues and taken care of the lawn maintenance.
They were trying to cut down on it, what they were trying, because they came to us with, I think it was $7,000 a year or something they were having to pay for. So we didn't try to do it, but they weren't happy with the system. We are doing Madisonville Oak, we're cutting the entrance of Madisonville Oak and 2 cul-de-sacs, that's all that's in there.
I thought after the last time there was a discussion about it, they were happy with the current process.
I have a question, and I'm not familiar with HOA, so maybe you can clarify for me, Keith, or anyone here that may know the history. When these neighborhoods were built, was there an agreement made with the town? Was that the understanding that, hey, you're going to build this neighborhood, but we can't manage to cut your grass? Or, I guess I'm just curious if that was ever discussed when they decided to build it. Which, I think, I get it that they have an HOA that's supposed to cover that. But they are paying the same amount of taxes as everybody else in town too. But they're getting cut the same rate as well. So I guess maybe Lewis's point is, should we hire more people to cut more often for the entire town? I personally don't have an issue with the strip that gets cut in front of my house. To be honest, I'm not even sure my grass guy may do it in between, and maybe that's why I don't know it. So,
I would suggest, because I like mine cut every week, I cut it. So if you want it cut every week, you cut it.
yeah. I certainly, Louis, to your point, I have had people give me the same sentiment from those neighborhoods. And that is just to chime in and say, I've had people approach me and say, hey, look, we feel like we're forgotten sometimes. That's not to say that they think that they live in a less than area, right? But it's not just Louis that's heard those sentiments, and it's not everyone. It's just a handful of people. I don't think it's the sentiment across the board, but I do want to make sure that those people are heard, and that's why it's brought up so everybody is aware, because not everybody may speak to those people, right? Or maybe they come to other people because they know them better. They have a better rapport with those people. I think it's important to bring up and consider, even if we don't move forward with cutting the grass more often or hiring more people, we should always hear everybody out and make sure that we're considering that in future plans. Quick question, though, in that same vein. On the salaries and benefits under the special revenue fund, that is a significant jump. Is there anything behind that projection from 127,000 to 220,000?
Wait a minute, help me.
Sorry, this is under special revenue,
Okay.
page 5. So our 2025 budget was 127,000, and our proposed budget for 26 is 220,000.
Special revenue.
And that says salaries hyphen sales tax.
Yes, no, listen, you're going to see some variances in the salaries and sales tax because the percentages that we were allotting for our employees in areas were reworked this year. We certainly some fund, sales tax fund, is where I was going to say, that's where all of our maintenance people are coming out of sales tax fund. So that jumped up quite a bit. The percentages of time spent in the water and gas along with garbage is minimal, other than we pick up on Mondays and we pick up on Fridays, and but the allocations of time it has been adjusted to more reflect.
Okay, so that's
where they
based
work.
more on what amount of time is going to be spent on each of those individual areas, and not so much that we're spending more, but it's just been moved around.
It's just been moved around. It's not.
Okay, so it's repurposed, I
Yeah,
understand.
you're going to see other areas where it's gone down
Okay,
as you review that documentation.
thank you.
You bet.
Just to get back to your question to me about the grass cutting, when developers come into municipalities, it's less common for them to make deals with the town to do their lawn maintenance. They depend upon the HOA to take over, and then they handle that. And as far as the voices, everybody has a voice and they need to be heard. But it's my experience, like as in right now, the town doesn't cut our grass. We pay for our grass to be cut.
If no other questions tonight, certainly I encourage you to come in to the town hall on those particular days. Welcome you to at least ask questions, certainly make suggestions. We certainly can discuss anything. But as obviously, as you discuss whether it's adding an employee, you certainly got to find the money for it. So come in with both some ideas as far as the making the request and also how we can finance and still remain a zero balance budget. So, again, the door is open, and certainly I hope you do take advantage of it, as you did earlier tonight. So, thank you. Any other questions tonight? Thank you for coming in the event. I could have, maybe got you home sooner. I thought we might have had questions that we needed your support on. Moving forward in the agenda is the monthly department reports, engineering.
Mayor.
Oh, no, my mistake. Okay. St. Tammany Informer, the official journal. You got to hold up, Joe.
Well, that's good. You should have the St. Tammany Farmer.
We got to go to St.
Have a
Tammany.
requirement so that they send all the councilmen a copy.
We have to have a motion to the proposal for the St. Tammany Informer to be the official journal for the year 2025. Motion by Councilman Ogle, seconded by Councilman Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go back to you, Joe. I'm sorry.
Okay, first of all, on the project summary update, on the first page, we've got our point repair contract, and it went out to bid, and the low bidder was Grady Crawford of Baton Rouge at $1,888,365. And I gave you a copy of the recommendation on the award to Grady Crawford and a certified bid summary. So we would recommend that this contract be awarded to Grady Crawford.
You're asking for a motion tonight
Yes.
to award this contract?
Yes.
Motion to award Grady Crawford Construction.
Motion by Councilman Dennis, second by Councilman Haddocks. Would you do a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilman Haddocks? Councilman Bound?
Yes.
Councilman Dennis?
Yes.
Councilwoman Faison?
Yes.
Councilman Ogle?
Yes.
Okay, on the next page, you've already gotten a review from Kyle on the tennis courts, shade structures. I don't have the contract completion date on that. I'd like to get her to put that on there.
It was discussed at the, we can get that for you. Because it was discussed at the pre-construction meeting.
Yeah, that needs to be on there. Okay, of course, the new fishing pier, Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries have not decided to give anybody any money yet. They hadn't set that program up for this year. Over on the last page is we have the bid opening. This was mentioned before. The bid opening on the sidewalks funded by USDA will be on June the 10th at 10 a.m. And the old Ponchatoula Highway, 5th Street water main improvements, we've got those. I got a copy of the plans and specs for this for Kyle, and we're requesting to advertise these for bids, if you want to do that.
We're not ready, I don't think, but we do have what we need.
Yes.
If in fact we do.
Yeah, she's submitted them to DHH, so they've got it to review.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ask the council to do that until they're ready to proceed with the work once the bids came in, because we don't want bids to come in and then not do the job.
That's what we discussed at the last meeting, that we would make a decision once we saw what the bids were.
Well, I mean, you certainly have the option and the opportunity to do that. But I wouldn't get the bids, I wouldn't advertise for the bids, have companies submit their bids and then not do the work. You won't get companies to submit a bid in the future if you do that. I mean, that's just my suggestion to you. Again, you have the total projected cost here, so we certainly can move forward with that at any time. But
Yeah, that's my recommendation, that we move forward with it tonight, to move forward with bids. Have you gotten the health department approval yet? You just asked for it.
We'll just ask for it. But usually you do that, and then you can go ahead and advertise it.
Restate, I'm sorry, which project are we referring to right now?
It's the last one on the last page. Old Ponchatoula Highway, 5th Street Water Main Improvements.
Also, the $6 million request to the state capital outlay for water system improvements, that, I haven't seen everything, but that summary said it included some water main replacement. So perhaps if we get some of that capital outlay money, it could be applied to this. But to hold this up at this point, no, I don't want to hold it up. I want to go ahead and get the bids and see if we can move forward. To me, this is part of the troubleshooting process that we have for the water system. We discussed it at length, month after month, had people in here, had the TV people out. No, we don't wait on it. To me, it's time to move forward and get bids.
Well, listen.
I thought that's what we were doing. Maybe I misunderstood at our last meeting. I thought we were having these drawings done to move forward with receiving bids, so we knew how much it would cost exactly.
We know how much it costs.
The $427,000? Okay.
Yeah. But if you go out to bid and you get contractors to make a bid on that, and then don't award it.
Once you advertise for bids, you're really obligated to
award it.
To award it. If the money is way out of your budget, you can throw all the bids out, but there are certain things you can, actions that you can do if you have a problem with the bids, you know?
The question at hand is pretty obvious. We got a budget of $427,000. Do we want to amend our budget before we approve it next month to include this cost and absorb this and put it out to bid? Right?
It's listed as $500,000, but I don't think it's funded.
It's not funded on next year's budget.
Right, it's not
It's a
funded.
priority
So
list that you're going to.
That's a question that's at stake now, right? And that's what has to be discussed and determined, and then we move forward.
Yeah, we just got through hearing about the unidirectional flushing, that it worked. Why would we go out for bids to replace lines that aren't broken and that are cleansed today? Now, we'll know more going forward, but we've talked about root cause analysis, and it's not, the root cause analysis is not the piping. It's the water going into the piping.
No, because we got a clean flush.
We got a clean flush.
I'm curious to see what Kim's experience is post this flush.
Okay.
I'll reach out to her and ask her
I'm curious about Kim's experience filling her pool. I'm curious about that. It was filled with clean water from the town, unless she hauled it in. I don't know. Maybe she hauled it in. But if not, then it was filled by a hose pipe that was town water.
Right, and I don't think that her dark brown water that she was experiencing was an everyday experience.
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
So I'm just curious if that, or I guess not if, when it will happen again. And I guess that goes back into what we talked with Kyle about earlier, is how often we would do that flush until it was clear, because it does bring up a boil water advisory. But if that's the solution, then I guess we need to look at how often do we want to do that to make sure it stays that way.
But again, I think I made this suggestion, or this, I thought I put this out, that the replacement of the pipe isn't gonna fix the brown water. And obviously, the pipe can be flushed. Changing the pipe is not gonna fix the problem, because the root cause analysis is manganese and chlorine. So are we gonna replace every pipe in town? I just don't see
So
the point. I
we-
don't see the point in replacing the pipe after the unidirectional flow at this point. See what happens, see what her experience is down the road with PEC. At this time, we have we have two solutions, but
We have yet, to this day, had any explanation of why Kim's water is massively worse than anyone else's. There has not been one solid explanation as to why her water, and it has been witnessed by multiple people, comes out dark brown on occasion. Obviously, it's manganese. We've had that tested. We all know it's manganese. Nobody's contesting that. My concern is that there is still yet to be something discovered that is different between the well and her house. And I get that we've had, it's not for lack of trying. I'm not saying that at all. When she was here at that meeting a month ago, she walked out under the impression that we were going to get bids and that we were going to have these pipes replaced. I think that as a council, we should each be reaching out to her after this meeting if we move forward with not doing that proposed plan. That is her impression, and I don't think it reflects well on us if we walk away from this meeting tonight not upholding that understanding.
We have engineering studies that's given us a total cost, and that's what we asked for.
Right.
That's what we asked for. Now, if you move forward, I would say that if you decide as a council to move forward, be prepared to also vote to put it in your budget.
Right, absolutely.
To get the bids and not award the job is not a good practice on our part.
No, I agree. Don't question that at all. I don't think it's good practice to not fulfill bids that have been sent out. 100% support that. All I am saying is that we have a resident that thought we were going to do something, and now at least two of us are confused and thought that we were. It doesn't sit well with me to move away from this meeting tonight and not move forward with that without at least speaking with her and giving her an explanation and having a plan in place.
Kristen, I'm not confused, and you're not wrong. That's exactly what we decided at the other meeting. We have in the budget next year an $800,000 line item that's funded for a fishing pier. We could use that money for this.
No, we can't.
Why not?
We've already submitted that grant request.
Well, are we going to get the grant?
I don't know.
We don't know that. But
If we
why do we,
don't,
if we don't, then we have the money available.
We can
All right.
we can take it back. And
Correct.
we can scratch
Exactly.
it, we can tear it up, we can throw it away. That's up to the council. But we can't take that money and do anything with it once we submit the grant request.
It's earmarked specifically
Yep. When do we find out if we got the money? When does the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries make that decision?
Well, it's probably up to them, and it's up to the governor if they're going to have this program this year,
Well, I'm talking about what's the timeline? Is it in the current legislative session that they're in right now?
I really don't know. It'd be sometime before the end of the year, I guess.
I feel like we're backtracking back to where we were, where we said we didn't have a water problem, and maybe,
No one said we didn't have a water problem. No one did.
maybe this flushing fixes it. But we don't know that right now. We've only flushed, what was that, 4 weeks ago? But we don't know yet. The problem is an intermittent problem, and I want to be ready to go with a bid. We promised that to them when they came here last month. And that's the impression she left with, that's the impression the people who were here left with, that's the impression that I left with and Kristen left with. And now we're backtracking.
I've never backtracked on my feelings, and I'll tell you, a number of times people kept saying root cause analysis. Well, the root cause analysis is the water. We know it's the water. We've had we've had at least five different professional organizations, professional water quality people, Vulcan Engineer, Curtis Environmental, Bill Travis, Owen and White, DHH, and PEC. Now, those are the ones that I've documented that have asked or either suggested that adding the polyphosphates is the first step. To do that is $5,000 to $8,000 a year. And we're going to move on $400,000 first? I wouldn't do that at my house, and that's the way I look at the budget here. I try to apply the budget as to something I would do if it was my house. And I wouldn't, because you're spending other people's money, don't look at it any different than you would if it was at your house.
Yeah, but you want to spend $800,000 on a fishing pier. I mean, come on, let's
didn't vote for
prioritize.
that. You did.
Is the water?
Or the council did.
What?
I didn't vote for that.
You promoted, I voted against
promoted
it.
it.
I voted against it.
Good for you. Four people voted for it.
Let me just correct one thing that you said, Mr. Mayor. You said Bill Travis said we got a water problem. That is not what he said. He told me he believes the issue is in the system, that we have the cleanest water in the parish coming out of that well. That it's something in the system that's causing the iron, the manganese to collect. Presumably, when we have an issue with the water pressure, it all gets released. And then that's where the brown water comes from.
Bill Travis stated that his recommendation was to add polyphosphates.
He even offered a contract of several $100 a month.
He told me he was asked to give us a polyphosphate price. He told me he thinks the issue is in the system. Yes.
He told you that only because he didn't state that. Kyle, did any of the people I read off not ask, make statements, and suggest polyphosphates was the solution to this problem? Not one. Every one of them said that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we get bids on this project. Is there somebody who can second that?
I don't believe that it's time to make the move on that when we did a flush and now it's clean. If it's not in the pipes, it wouldn't come out clean if there was an issue. And now it's clean. We'll do it again and we'll see what the issue, what the follow-up is. But to spend $500,000 to $8 million to replace every pipe in town? I mean, I don't see this point where it came out clean, that it's not in that the pipe doesn't need to be replaced. To me, that's the outcome of this.
I have a liability question, and Bruce, maybe you can answer it for me regarding this. If we were to go out for bids and companies come in, they throw their bids in, and we award a bid, and then all of a sudden we decide not to do the project, wouldn't we be held liable for failure to complete?
If that award is considered an agreement, then it's a breach of agreement.
Yeah, once you
Breach of contract.
Second question I have, I think the last time, Kyle, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it in mid-February when we were digging up the pipes over by the Thigpen's house? Checking to see if the valves were upside down. Have they had any brown water since then? Have they reported anything? Does anybody know?
I just actually texted him to ask her, but he hasn't responded yet.
Responded what?
Couple questions, Mayor. Now that we have an idea of a budget, what's it going to take to put together specs to go out to bid?
On which project?
The one we're talking about, the 2,000
Oh, yeah,
foot pipe.
it's already ready. They're ready to go.
The specs are written.
Yeah.
We are bid
Yeah.
ready.
Right here.
So if we pull the trigger, we can announce this within a week, right?
We advertise.
Next question, Kyle, when we did this unidirectional flushing, whatever, that we're under the impression that has cleaned the lines out. Is that correct? For now. So right now, we think the lines are clear.
It's gonna be a constant battle because you're continuing to put water that has a percentage of manganese in it. Madisonville Oaks and Madison Ridge have PVC pipe which are 20 to 25 years old. They have brown water. So, which way do you go?
I guess my thought process is, I have no issue with the pipe being replaced, but if it's not gonna solve the problem, we're just throwing money, good money at a bad situation, right? If we've cleaned the pipes and we think they're clean, if we have every document ready to go, then let's see how long this lasts, right? If we get 6 months to a year out of it, great, we just do unidirectional flushing. We've fixed the problem, because otherwise we're gonna have the same problem with the new pipe. If this thing comes back in a few weeks, well, then we gotta do something. It's just my simple thought process.
How long is it gonna last? This is trial and error basis, but eventually those newer pipes are going to get the manganese built up in them.
How, do you, I'm sorry, do you think that, do you have any opinion on why Kim was experiencing what she experienced and why it was so different from everybody else?
No, I don't know if it was, because it's Kim, it's Christine. I don't know if it's the surge in front of their house, because every time 300 people turn on a faucet past them, they get a surge.
So I think what really caught me was the day that Gary came in and he said he was out there with you and y'all kind of primed it and immediately pulled just dark brown water. That for me is a giant red flag that it's not, obviously look, I 100% agree if we keep adding brown water back into the pipes, it's just going to happen again. I am very concerned that there is something else happening in that specific area that we have not discovered that's causing this issue, only because it's so different than everyone else's experience, right? You just said Madisonville Oaks, Madisonville Ridge, or Madison Ridge, they all have brown water, but it's nothing like what Kim experiences. And we haven't run theirs to get it clear yet, like we just did at Easter. I think that is what pushes me to agree to want to replace the pipes. Not because I want the pipes replaced, but because we'll be pulling something out of the ground and actually inspecting it and seeing if there's not something else causing an issue.
Now, we run new pipes from the street to her house.
It was new.
It's brand new from.
Yeah, from-
Yeah, we checked it out. Her house
Yeah.
is 5 years old.
Have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
So motion by Councilman Ogle,
I would second.
second by Councilwoman Faison. Do a roll call, please.
Councilman Haddix?
No.
Councilman Bound?
At this point in time, no, based on what I said earlier.
Councilman Dennis?
Based on the time that I think we should wait to see what the result of the unit flushing is, I'm vote no.
Councilwoman Faison?
Yes.
Councilman Ogle?
Yes.
Motion failed. Again, when it comes time to do this, I want you to know that it's in the budget as a priority list, and that because it's in the budget as a priority list, you're also going to have to vote to fund this from past surpluses. So that's the past surplus in the utility funds that you're taking from years past where we had surpluses to do this.
And an amendment to the budget.
And I'm in the budget, yes. So anyway, it failed as of
Can be done
tonight.
at a later time.
Yes.
I got one more thing. I gave you some paperwork where PEC has been acquired by Fort and Tablada, so we're part of Fort and Tablada now. All the personnel and including myself, we'll all stay the same, just under a different name.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
So as we move forward, you said that it would come out of the utility budget. and that it would have to be amended on the budget. So if this continues to happen and we continue to monitor this, and it doesn't improve any situation, we can do that down the road, correct, Chief?
Certainly, from taking the money, I mean, there's not enough money in the budget to do that.
Correct.
This year. Now, you can take that money and reallocate it out of surplus, past year's surplus funds.
Right.
To do that, yes.
You know what the balance is of that surplus fund?
Yeah. Yeah, the money's there. Yeah, to do.
What's the balance though? Is it $1 million? Is it 2 million? Is
Probably
it 400,000? $6 million we have available, okay.
Yes, and that's for all utilities.
Keep
yeah.
in mind, Louis, that's for all utilities, and that has to be a large number like that because of the gas company.
Yeah.
All right. And the water and the sewer.
Chief Attorney?
Good evening. I'm going to be rather quick tonight. As everybody knows, school's getting ready to get out. In a couple of days, next week, we're going to be out. And one of our crossing guards, of course, we almost get struck by a car every day standing out there, but one of them got real close the other day, so that was a concern of ours. I spoke to the...
Chief, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Which crossing guard?
Both.
So the lady...
The lady gets closer than we do. They don't want to run over the police, I guess.
I can't tell you how many times she's almost walked directly in front of my car, so I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, no, I've spoken to her about that. She's very
Here's my
trustworthy.
child the other day. She said, "Oh my God, we almost hit that lady." And I said, "What do you mean?" 'Cause she almost walked into the side of my car.
Yeah, you got to have eyes in your back of your head to do it. You really do.
Just letting you know.
Yeah, and actually, I spoke to Mr. Moria the other day, and he's expecting 60 to 75 more kids next year. So it just gets better by the minute. But we had a little scare. I say a little scare. One of our businesses on Friday afternoon with all our junior high school kids was we had a report that they was trying to sell vapes that they were advertising was laced with fentanyl. So we were able to track the people down. They lived outside of our city limits, and it was more of a joke, but scary for a little while. So we handled that little situation. We had one little domestic violence in town that it was domestic violence, but it was reported much worse than what it was. So we handled that one. We had to get a guy off the hog pens off the bridge the other day, although it wasn't our traffic guy was out there. They wasn't sure why he was out there, and so I went out there and got him. He was enjoying nature, so he enjoyed nature somewhere else. After that, we got him off of there. Music fest we had last weekend, we'll talk about that at the next meeting, but it went well. The weather was very cooperative. We wasn't sure on that one, but it went very well, as did obviously the fishing incident on the road that Mr. Burke had. That was a true success, so we were happy with both of those. Just go back to our numbers now. 2024, we had 91 traffic stops. 2025, we had 146. Our citations last year was 89. It went up to 128 this year. Our warnings in 24 was 34. This year we did 49 in the month of April. And our accidents basically stayed the same, 2 to 3. And our arrests went from 6 to 4. So we were pretty proud of those numbers. It still amazes me with the volume of traffic that we got come through this town that we had so few accidents. But we're very blessed there. I really believe we are. To have the hundreds of thousands of cars we got come through here, to have 2 or 3 accidents in a month, I think is phenomenal. I'll toot our own horn on that one. I really believe we have a lot to do with that. But we're very proud of that fact, obviously. So that's pretty well all I got. I'll stand for any questions, comments.
We had a resident reach out to me and request for increased police presence on Morgan Street.
Okay.
She just said that the speeding is bad and they're concerned about summertime with kids. They didn't say during what time. The main concern was summertime, when kids are out riding their bikes to and from the store and in the park and stuff. So I promised that I would bring that up and mention it at the meeting.
It's a main artery, obviously, between 22 and 21. One of the biggest complaints we get is the stop signs. We don't get many speeding complaints because, I mean, you only have so much room and speed with the way the stop signs was placed on the streets, which was very good. So absolutely, we're gonna watch. I mean, summertime, all that picks up in all of our areas, so, we're gonna try to police it the best we can, but absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I sent you this, but
Yes, sir.
I just have a concern about the presence downtown between about 5 and 8 during the week.
Yeah, we, look, with summertime coming, we're already seeing it. The bridge has been a thorn in our side forever. We got people driving down the shoulder. We got people passing 8, 10 cars at a time because they're just impatient, don't want to wait. And, we're only in May. June and July August is gonna haunt us like it does every year. We basically try to do the best presence we can. And, during the peak hours, both Mike and I try to get out as much as we can when we get away from the computers and get away from the desk. But we already seeing it this early. For it to be this early is kind of alarming. It really is. We've written multiple tickets so far, and the public seems to be getting more rude with our officers because they just think they can do it and they have an entitlement that they don't have to wait. But it seems to be starting out much earlier this year than what it's been in the years past. But we're going to address it day by day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God.
All right, gas system, about 20 new customers in the last month. We're getting ready to start a phase in Silver Hill. It's actually 2 phases in one, connecting the estates of Silver Hill to Silver Hill. I haven't seen the total lot number yet, but it's 11,000 feet of pipe, so it's going to be a pretty big number of houses. Fire Tower Road out in Ponchatoula. Going back to the grass cutting, I try to keep a list in my head, and a few of my guys know there's probably 12 residents in town that do not want us to cut their grass. So I know we've had some new guys that they don't know, and they'll go down the street, and some people think we bring weeds from one part of town to another part and mix in their grasses, and they like it cut when they cut their yards to match and everything. So there's some places in town we got to keep a kind of mental note what places not to cut. For drainage, St. Joseph Street, if y'all seen that, that's completely finished. We overlaid the road, centerlined it, put in a speed bump, catch basins. St. Francis Street, we're going to come do the same thing that we've widened out the side by the Old Town Hall. We made it 5 feet. We're going to jump to the other side, make it 5 feet, shifting the road a little bit and adding a parking shoulder on the Old Town Hall side. Morgan Street, that construction's finished for drainage. They finished the catch basins today, so all we do is pour the concrete tops, and that was probably the worst street in town they worked on yet, complaining about traffic because you've got 3 schools that use that as a cut-through road throughout the day, so there's only a little window when they were actually not getting a chance of getting ran over. We got a couple more little spots we've shot grade on, get started on soon. We recently restriped all the stop bars in town, crosswalks, parking lot, riverfront, touched up the paint on all striping in town. And then we installed the 2 speed humps, St. Joseph and on 8th Street.
Kyle, we had some people talk about the drainage on St. Anne Street. Is that anywhere in the plans to work on that next year? Because I talked to another resident, and it's not just Ms. Faison who's here tonight, it's other people as well. Plus, it's the issue that we heard about with the drainage at Morgan in 21 that's coming down and going in that direction as well.
I've reached out to Mike Cooper. He's offered to help us dig that canal, but it's PEC's helping me with a Corps of Engineer permit for that. That's going to be a 8 to 10 month process if we even get it. So I don't know, it's out there, we're working on it, trying to get that done. One of the other spots on St. Anne that we're about to start is for Kevin Pfister, corner of First and St. Anne.
Yeah, that's what I talked to.
Yep. I spoke to, I call her Red, I don't know his wife's name.
Yeah.
I told her yesterday that we measured it and shot grade yesterday.
So there were some email exchanges between me and the engineer working on the beautification sidewalk project on 21. And it came as a surprise to me. He said drainage is not included in that at all, but they wouldn't make the drainage worse. So there is a drainage, and I think it's related to the St. Anne Street, a drainage issue from that corner right there where, the jewelry store is and all, going back over to St. Anne. That's never drained well. It just goes right down the sidewalk.
So I went by, not to cut you off, I went by when it was raining last week, and we're going to catch all that water in front of Kevin's rental at the corner of First and St. Anne. We're going to catch it there, divert it to the lift station, not to the lift station, there's a swale at the lift station, behind Ace Hardware, and then it goes into the swamp drain. But I watched it the other day. There was a 30-foot strip of water that deep flowing right under Kevin's rental and then onto his house. So.
Any other questions for Kyle? Thank you.
Would that be a single catch basin that y'all are going to put in there to reroute it?
Yeah, if you've watched the water there, it's like a direct line. I guess it's just the way the road elevations are. We're going to put one there. We're going to put another one. He has a driveway that goes into that house like 75, 80 feet, and then it'll go another 100 feet, and then it's going to hit a swale that goes out.
Thank you. Al?
Mayor, Council, this is the permit report for April. We had 10 permits issued, 7 residential permits, that's a pool and some generators, and 3 commercial, which is electrical and a little minor renovations over at the new Social Concepts restaurant that opened up tonight. And I met with the parish Monday on our hazardous mitigation plan. And we have 2 more meetings. One is to finalize with the parish, all communities that have submitted and painstakingly went through these meetings. And then the final is with FEMA, because FEMA has to approve all that. Hopefully everybody will get approved. I did 18 inspections for the month. We got some interesting parties for the old amusement building or the old picture show. Of course, all of them have to go before planning and zoning. And the old church on Cedar, which is zoned industrial, has changed, but people were really interested in purchasing these buildings, which is good for us, so I just wanted to touch base with y'all, let you know what's going on.
Were the interested parties on the church, did they mention what their plans would be?
I've had a couple people inquire about it. One gentleman wants to move his practice from Covington there. It's chiropractic, and Chris Combs is trying to work with him on that, keeping the expense down, because renovation on a building like that, it's been there for a while, and he knows it floods there. As long as it doesn't go over 50% of the structure value, then he'll be okay, without having to elevate it, which would, what it costs to elevate today. But I'm going to contact him again tomorrow. He's supposed to call me and then, try to get him set up for a P&Z meeting with some plans that, proposals.
What about the amusement?
What was their interest there?
What is that?
What was the interest for the amusement place, the old picture show?
They want to do like where you have a reception hall and stuff like that,
Oh, wow.
events, a little event center. They're professionals, at least that's what they told me. They do that a lot in New Orleans and all, and they moved over here and they don't want a big venue, but they were concerned about the parking, and I kind of mentioned to them maybe they could get with Greg over at the Triple Nickel, work something out with the restaurants around here to maybe cater some of these events, and then they might be able to use some of the parking, his parking, after the restaurant's closed. That was just an idea. They brought it up first, and I just maybe get in contact with him, you know. But it's a good idea, you know. It's not better than just sitting there, you know.
This is Drew's property, right? The old, yeah, the one next to Drew's property. They want to put in, they're considering making it into event space.
On what piece of property?
He's
Yeah,
asking,
that's the old picture show or amusement,
it's not a
whatever.
very big event, I guess is what you're saying, huh?
I mean, it's about 2 cars worth of spots there. That's an interesting.
But there's, you know,
Interesting concept.
everybody, right, you know, I told them about off-street parking, but when you have a big event, you know, if they got 50 people, figure 25 cars got parked somewhere, you know, up and down.
Well, not just that, I mean, like, let's say that Drew did put parking there, that's still not enough for all those cars. Hey, look, you know, I don't want to discourage business owners, but that's probably not the best place for that.
Before it sells, it would have to go to plan, I mean, I would ask for planning and zoning and also
Right.
make sure that the parking would be,
Have upset residents, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all that has to go, because it's commercial and industrial, it all has to go through the fire marshal's office first for,
yeah,
you know.
You're saying industrial for the church, but you meant institutional, right?
institutional.
It's not industrial there, it's institutional.
Yeah, I mean institution, not industry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget to send us that, what do you call it? The night, what's it called?
What is that? Oh, with the night sky,
Night sky, that's what it's called.
yeah,
Night sky,
I'll make you a copy of it.
That'd be great.
It's in great detail, but, you know, you pick whatever you want
Right.
for around here because it's, you know, but it's good. It helps, you know, at least we have some control over the lighting.
You email that to all of us?
Yeah. I'll
That
give
would
it to
be
y'all.
including me.
Okay.
Thank you, Al. Bruce?
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so the recurring matters that I take care of every month, of course, is Mayor's Court, which includes attending not only Mayor's Court, the review of citations and communications with the various offenders and/or attorneys throughout the month, attendance at town council meeting, attendance at town committee meeting, and then, and I have daily meetings with the mayor, usually in the morning, every day. Unless he's on vacation, of course. Now, some of the other matters I've been dealing with, the SBA cell tower. So our cell tower lease does not come up, does not expire until, I think it's 2030.
Correct.
Okay, 2030, yet they want to start working on it right now. So we have an offer here, but it's probably a low ball, I don't know. I'm dealing with a California agent who is an expert in this area, and I've been dealing with him for actually several years. And we had a telephone conference with him in the mayor's office, and so I'm going to request a full accounting as to the cell phone companies that are using the cell tower now, but we will be receiving an increase because we're in the last option. We're approaching the last option now, 5-year option. But what they had proposed was a $20,000 rent increase with a $10,000 signing bonus. But our agent says in California that's woefully low. So I'm in the beginning processes of that. Also, let's see what else. course, the review and revisions of the amendment to section 3688 of the town's ordinance that we, passed, we didn't pass, but we submitted today. Other than that, it was just miscellaneous things that come up during the week or month.
Thank you. Any questions for Bruce, legal department? Okay, at this point is council comments. Councilman Ogle?
Couple of things. Mr. Joe, you said you did specifications on that water line replacement. Is that something you can email all of us so we see what it looks like?
Well, it's quite a few, that's right here, yeah, right there.
All right, good. Can you email that to us? PDF format?
Yeah. A lot of pages.
I'll look at them. Another thing I wanted to ask to add to the committee meeting, in addition to the salary survey, if we can get the people here, I received a follow-up from the Attorney General's office about what we charge for community center rental. Could we give a discount, consider a discount for residents? So if you could put that on the agenda for the committee meeting. And one other thing, I'd sent you guys out this, which, if you mind passing that down, Keith. We have a local resident, it's Philip Burke, who is about to be commissioned in the Marine Corps. And I think that's a big deal. That we have a kid from town that grew up here that's about to go serve as a commissioned officer in the Marine Corps. And since it is a big deal, I want to make a big deal about it. So I sent an email to all of you. I want to put it on the public comment portion of the June meeting. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. But this is something that I saw on my last trip out west, which is Huntington Beach does this banner program for their kids that serve in the military. And if you could put that on the council committee meeting agenda also. I'd like to bring a proposal for us to do it here, starting with Philip, and maybe expanding it to veterans, because we're not going to have a bunch of people who, join the military every year that are town residents. But it wouldn't cost the town anything. Huntington Beach sets the price at $160, so you get a sponsor to honor the person who is in the military or the veteran. And then it goes up on one of the light poles as an additional banner in town. I would propose, a single month out of the year, maybe July or maybe November for Veterans Day, that we would do this and have this on display and make a big deal out of military service. I know the mayor has in his plans for the riverfront a Veterans Memorial, I think, somewhere in there. And I think this would complement what we're doing on the riverfront or intend to do.
This isn't the young man then?
That's a sample.
Oh, okay. No, I thought this was the young man that you...
No, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, one of the employees at Piggly Wiggly, I don't know that he lives in town, but he told me he's about to enter the Naval Academy, too.
Well...
Cashier? Yeah, that's the, what's his like, he's the all-star basketball player at Hannon. He was a voted Gatorade basketball player of the year, and he's got a college scholarship to play basketball there. Yeah, outstanding young man.
We have another young man that's entering the Air Force. So certainly, if we can get those names, though, I'd like to do something special for them. Yeah. And the branch of service and any kind of information so that we can do a resolution and recognize the... what's he, Kristen's son. He's joining the Air Force.
Kristen's son?
No.
Kristen
Barnes. Cooper, the youngest son.
Thank you, Jim.
Huh? Crystal's son, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, we do, if we can get the names submitted so that we can put a resolution together and recognize, have them here, recognize them, and make a big deal of it. I agree with you. I think it should be.
Get on the committee.
You want it for the regular council meeting?
Right, to recognize them at the council meeting, but discuss this that I just handed out as well as, yeah. And if we got 3 guys, I'm willing to put up the cost of the banners for the first 3.
Okay. Did you give a copy to her? Okay, all right. So that's for the committee meeting, Deidre? Okay, all right. All right, anything else? Councilman Dennis?
I'd like to add to the committee meeting too, I received something from the legislature, from PAR, about the use of cell phones during the town council meetings and texting by the council members while the meeting's going on. And it shows some negativity towards it. It would be put into the public record while the meeting was going on. So I'd like to discuss that in further.
Are we talking about with Councilman Kugel? Is that what you're referring to?
No, this is something totally different. This came from Baton Rouge.
Okay.
So actually, what is it that you want? So that she can list it. Do you? Okay, okay, all right, all right. Is there anything else?
During the meeting, you just did that.
Keith?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything else?
That's all.
Councilman Abbott?
No.
What did I just say? My brain.
He just told me he forgot. He didn't tell me.
Not at this time, I'll think of it in a second.
When I ran for office, one of the biggest things that I wanted to see change in town, or just improve, was communication. It's important to me. It's dear to my heart, mostly because it was a big factor in why I ran for office. I ran because I was frustrated on several occasions by not knowing what was going on. And when I bring these topics forward, it is not to criticize, it is not to speak poorly of previous actions. It is only for the purpose of attempting to improve. I want to make that clear, that it is never with the intention to make anyone look bad or feel like I don't think that they are doing hard work. I think everyone on this council does plenty, including our mayor, does plenty of work, far more than working hours would be considered. Anytime that I bring that forward is to only improve the experience of our residents. With that said, I hope that each of you will give Ms. Kim Thigpen a call after the meeting this week. I think it's important for us to reach out and explain to her the steps that we want to see taken, because I know that she didn't understand that this would not move forward tonight. So I know that she'll be disappointed and like to hear from each of us. That's it. I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Councilman Bounds?
I have nothing.
I have no.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
remember what it
Yes.
was, but I would like to, if we get Al's ordinance and suggestion, maybe possibly discuss that at the committee meeting as well, the lighting.
Okay.
And, all right, let's add restrictions on that C2 commercial as well.
Wait.
Gas pumps.
Thank you, that was the other one.
To follow up on Kristen's comment, I feel like what I'm hearing from the other council members is they might be willing to change their opinion on the vote they took tonight if the people along Old Ponchatoula Highway get more dirty water. Is that right?
I'll address it something when I spoke about it. I will have my vote on this item like I have had every other item that I've voted for in 21 years. I have to consider how we spend our money, consider every resident in this town. And as we're looking at it right now, I didn't come prepared tonight to vote for this. I didn't think we were. But to hear Kyle speak and that we think that we have flushed these lines and they're clean, and then to turn around and spend $500,000 to put more pipe in, it's going to be just the same condition of what we have now, to me, doesn't seem very fiscally sound. So if it's the right thing to do, I'm always in favor of that, whatever it may be. So just because, why would we spend $500,000 tonight if we think we have clean lines? If it proves to be incorrect, but then obviously we move forward, like anything else that we do. We can always adjust budgets, we can always amend budgets, we can always change our minds. It's always looking to, how do we fiscally and how responsibly spend our money here? And if this has solved the problem, well, then we're in great shape and we spent little to nothing. If it's not the answer, then if the answer is replacing the pipe, then that's what we do, we replace the pipe.
Well said, agreed.
And to respond, the first thing I did when this came up was ask for permission to have each of their cell phone numbers, which I now have and will be speaking to them about it, because I want to understand what's going on with their water. If it's clear, then to me, then it only makes wise sense for every resident, every tax dollar that we hold off. If they're still having black waters, they've had some ugly stuff that they've showed us. So I know I personally haven't had brown water since we have flushed, but I don't have the issue they have, so that's not a fair comparison. So I'm anxious to go see them in person and talk to them about it face to face.
That was the reason why I asked, had she had any more issues since February with the other flushing? So, yeah, I'm right there with you.
At this point, if we have clear water, what's it hurt to hold off to see if the condition returns, right? So I'm anxious to go see them in person and talk to them. I'm not going to call them and text them and cordially ask just go see them face to face and speak to them about it. Curious to see how it's going.
I have no comments, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilman Haddix.
Second.
Second by Councilman Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, which is the 15th, tomorrow, the first day you get?
What time between 10 and 2? And that, actually, yeah, would you? Bruce. You need anything signed, that award letter? Is that, okay, okay. Okay, all right. All right, Joe, be careful.
I'll take one.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know I'm not going to be in tomorrow. So I just wanted you to know. I wanted